Building a modern skyscraper. Popular mechanics. January 1st, 1925. The growth of a great skyscraper from the first excavations to the building of the stone walls around the steel skeleton is one of the greatest feats of modern engineering. To the city dweller to whom the sight is an everyday occurrence, there still remains an endless fascination in every step, from the digging of the basement by steam shovels to the placing of the last stone. Modern skyscrapers go up so rapidly that the progress can be measured with the eye from day to day, which adds interest to the game of watching the workmen. The steelwork rises into the air on a fixed schedule, so many feet per day, so efficiently is every detail planned. For instance, two men named Jimmy erected the steel for a 38-story building in 114 days. Without help, they placed each column, girder, and beam in place, and bolted the ends to hold until the rivet gangs could complete the job. There were 6,900 tons of steel in the towering skeleton. It was not accident that both the connectors, the title they bore on the contractor's payroll, had the same name. The elder was Irish and was Jimmy by accident, but the younger was Swedish and was Jimmy by choice. The reason is that the first connector, old in years at what is essentially a young man's game, insists that his partner must bear the same name, and when one Jimmy quits, work halts until the contractor finds another to take his place. The connectors are the monarchs of skyscraper construction. The reason there were but two men to place all the steel in the giant building was that the floor area was small enough for a single derrick with an exceptionally long boom to reach every corner of it. For each derrick used, there must be two connectors in an erecting crew of 7 men, the others including the foreman, engineer, hoisting engineer, and the 2 hookers who attach the cable to each piece of steel on the ground, sending them aloft in the order in which they are needed. The building of a modern office skyscraper requires relatively few men on the scene, but back of them is the combined work of hundreds or thousands of others. In the ore mines of Minnesota, dynamite, steam shovels, railroad crews, and muckers get out the iron ore and start it down the lakes in steamers, bound for the steel mills of Pittsburgh or Youngstown or the Chicago district. At the mills, the metal is extracted, and from the furnaces pours as molten steel into the ingot molds, to be rolled into bars and billets. At the fabrication plant, reheating and more rollers reduce the steel to beams, ready to be drilled for the rivet holes. In the limestone quarries of Indiana, channeling machines, driven by steam, cut out huge blocks of stone, some to go to the saws to be cut into plain blocks for the plain wall surfaces, and others to column fluting machines or hand carvers, to be fashioned into the delicate ornamental parts. In the marble quarries of Vermont and Italy, other men are getting out the stone for interior finish. Cement quarries are reducing the rock to building material. Sand dredges collect the aggregate. Lumber for forms is cut from trees in the Northwest. And from half a dozen countries, fine hardwoods are ordered for interior paneling. Back of all their preparation lies the work of the artists and draftsmen and architects who conceived the design and executed the plans, and they in turn were followed by the substructure workers who dug down to bedrock and built the foundations. Drawing the plans and preparing the specifications for modern buildings is a highly specialized work. One draftsman does nothing but design plumbing installations. Another handles the electric wiring, one the steam fittings, and another the structural details. Then there is a draftsman who takes care of the architectural planning, and as many as 5 who do nothing but create the exterior designs, passing them on to others who develop the various schemes. An average architectural office specializing in big buildings will have as many as 3 men who do nothing but write specifications, another man to obtain bids and let subcontracts, and still another to see to the execution of the contracts and direct the corps of building superintendents. With the plans drawn and contracts let, the first task is to build the foundations, which in modern skyscrapers must go down to bedrock. 30 years ago, in the early days of tall buildings, modern caisson construction had not been developed, and buildings were erected on cribworks or forests of wooden piles. The result was that they slowly settled as the multitude of sewers, conduits, and tunnels under the streets drained the water away from the surrounding earth and allowed it to compress. With the lower foundations in place, work begins on the basement, or rather basements, as there are usually from 4 to 8 floor levels underground. Once the substructure is in place, the jimmies of the construction gang arrive. As soon as the steel structure gets started upward, the carpenters and cement men follow with their forms and liquid rock. The cement casing serves a dual purpose. It fireproofs the steel to prevent its melting under intense heat, and likewise adds rigidity to the building. The last is by no means the least important, and it is for this reason that the cement forms follow so closely after the erection crew. Even when working only 6 floors ahead, there is considerable swaying, and a slender skeleton of steelwork will buck as much as 6 inches when the derrick picks up its load hundreds of feet below on the ground. The stonemasons follow the cement men, and it is not at all unusual to see them start their work 5 or 10 stories in the air, resting the stone on steel ledges provided at each floor for that purpose. Before the days of steel construction, the walls carried the framework, and on tall buildings were necessarily enormously thick. Nowadays, the process has been reversed, and the framework carries the walls. The reason for starting the stonework several stories above the ground is that, as a rule, only plain sawed stone is used there, while the elaborately hand-carved stone for the lower floors requires more time to prepare, and often is not ready until long after many of the upper floors have been completed.